All right, y'all. Welcome back to Two Marines React. Again, I'm Theo from Combat Arms channel, and with me is Ryan from Dit Commando.
Hey, troops.
Okay, so today we're checking out something that is kind of in my wheelhouse. So this is 50 insane U.S. Marine facts that'll shock you. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to verify one that they're true and see how insane they actually are.
Yeah, you know how infographics is with this, so take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. But we've got the right man in the house.
Fact check it. Oh yeah, all right, let's do it.
This branch of the US military was at first created to deal with invasions from water and invading via the water, but the Marines do a bit of everything nowadays. In 1834, the Marines became part of the US Navy, but they go back to 1775. Presently, there are around 186,000 active members and 38,500 reserves.
Jeez,
it's the smallest of the 7 US uniformed services. By those we mean Navy, Army, Air Force, etc. There is also
right, so sorry to pause it. So that's the smallest of the US services, but it's still like double Britain complete. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, dude. When I heard how many y'all had over in the UK, I'm like, I mean, again, it makes sense with like landmass and population and stuff, but I'm like, I thought the US Marine Corps was small because you go in the US Army and there's like 1 million people.
Seriously, man, there's like 4,000 Marines in the Royal Marines. It's crazy.
Also a special branch of the Marine Corps, which is the United States Marine Corps Special Operations Command. This command often deals with more covert operations. It's all a bit confusing as the US military is comprised of so many parts, but we'll help explain everything. Welcome to this episode of the Infographic Show, 50 shocking facts
the US Marines
about
had
US Marines. Number 50, what do they do? Just like we did in our other shows, we have to give you some basics before we get into facts you probably don't already know. Unlike the regular Navy, the Marines spend much of their time on land, though they might capture naval bases or defend them. As you'll find out, they are kind of military multitaskers, and many times they have been the main force in land battles. So really, the name Marines can be a bit misleading. Number 49, let the Marines explain. Here's the Marines' own mission statement. We are forward deployed to respond swiftly and aggressively in times of crisis. We are soldiers of the sea, providing forces and detachments to naval ships and shore operations. We are global leaders, developing expeditionary doctrine and innovations that set the example, and leading other countries' forces and agencies in multinational military operations. These unique capabilities make us first to fight and our nation's first line of defense. Number 48, what qualifications?
Yeah, so we kind of call ourselves, or like the U.S. Marines is kind of like the emergency response. So like the global 911. Yeah, so if like something happens, they have like a certain time frame to go and react to it. So that's kind of what they mean by that.
It makes sense though, because it's like they're an aggressive outfit, right? So it's, they want to get the shock troops in, so to speak, right? To kick ass.
Yeah, but sometimes they also get misused, kind of like as an army force where they'll go on deployments and, spend some time overseas. So
you need to join. You must be American, mentally stable, i.e. a history of meth abuse and related psychoses in your teens won't go down well in the interview. You need a high school diploma or a GED. 90% of Marines have a high school diploma, some have GEDs, and a very small percentage have
just
neither.
The 3 qualifications.
One military site says there are 35 career fields in the Marines, so you'll be chosen to do what you are good at. Number 47, what else? You must be at least 17, but if you are at that age, you'll need your parents' permission to join. You can be as old as 28, according to Stars and Stripes. It depends on what you can offer or what you want to do.
Similar
Number
to
46,
England.
how fit do you have to be? Okay, so you don't have to be quite as trim as a UFC middleweight, but you do have to be reasonably fit. We went to the actual Marines website to see what you have to do. We can't go through it all, but basically you must be decent at pull-ups, push-ups, and crunches. You then have to run a 3-mile run in 28 minutes or less. That's not really hard for most people who jog a bit. You then have a series of combat fitness tests. All these are scored, and for female Marines, there are different limits for the tests. Before you even start that, you can't look like you've lived most of your life playing Mario Kart and eating double cheese pizzas. The Marines website tells you to contact a Marine to find out body requirements, and we don't really want to sign up ourselves. We found one site that says they prefer men between 5 feet and 6 feet 8 inches tall, and that weigh less than 255 pounds. Those are pretty wide parameters, but if you are out of shape, boot camp might prove to be too difficult. 45. Is boot camp hard like in the movies? Are you eyeballing me, son? Is boot camp hard? The short answer is yes. Military.com writes, Marine boot camp is extremely challenging, both physically and mentally, considered to be tougher than the basic training programs of any of the other military services. There are 3 phases lasting 70 days, and yes, your drill instructor is usually tough on you. One of the last phases is to deprive you of sleep and not feed you much while you go on a grueling march. It's called...
So that you've done both. Then you've been on like both sides of the coin, so to speak. Would you say that's kind of true? And from your experience of being Marine and Army, have it been tougher in the initial stage? Because that's what I would have thought.
Definitely harder. Yeah, for sure. They're definitely harder, and I think that's kind of like where they get like their appearance of being just like tough guys and whatnot. But honestly, if you go in with the mindset that it's going to be hard and that you're going to be miserable, it's pretty easy to get through boot camp because I mean you're being told what to do and everything.
It's a mindset then, really, isn't it? You know, you work yourself into it or you work yourself out of it. It's a similar thing in pretty much all Marine branches, really.
Called the Crucible. After boot camp, you'll be sent for more training at your respective school. Number 44? Nah, not for me. Between 11 and 14% of people don't get through boot camp. Number 43?
It should be higher.
For some people, it really wasn't for them. In 2018, a Marine dropped dead from a heart attack in San Diego. Number 42, killing your DI. We can't find any stories of Marines killing their drill instructors, but in 2008, 4 Marines murdered a United States Marine Corps Sergeant, John Powell Peterzak. It had nothing to do with bad feelings, though. This was not a full metal jacket scenario, just bad people that did bad things.
Hang on a minute.
The first raid. Let's get lighter and more historical. The first ever raid by the Marines came just after they were founded when they stole a bunch of weapons from the Brits in the Bahamas. Number 40, famous Marines who don't look the part. Way too many famous people to mention, so we'll give you a few names that surprised us. Jim Beaver, the guy that wrote the show Deadwood.
Never heard of him.
Drew Carey, comedian and TV star who looks like he might have struggled with the pull-ups if he wasn't much slimmer in those days. The Everly Brothers, old school musicians. Carlo Mastrototaro, a mafia boss. Tom Monaghan, the man that gave America Domino's Pizza. Charles Nigg, rapist and killer of 25 people currently residing on death row in San Quentin. William Clark Styron Jr., one of America's most celebrated novelists. You might not be surprised that the list is full of boxers and other athletes, as well as lots of politicians. Number 39.
Yeah, there's quite a few boxers that like one of my most favorite boxers of all time. Ken Norton was a U.S. Marine. I don't know if you know him. He fought Muhammad Ali a couple of times. Like he's a legend. No. He's a legend, but he was like a U.S. Marine as well. Gene the Marine Tunney, one of the greatest boxers of all time. Like I think it was like in the 20s and 30s. Jack Dempsey and stuff fought him. He was a Marine.
Okay.
Some real famous U.S. Marines like.
Heartburn.
Getting that aggression
Marines
out.
must finish eating their meal the second their drill instructor finishes his meal, which is why some people say Marines eat really fast.
Wait, what?
Number 38, the Tavern. Now,
okay, I don't know what that's about. When we would eat, the drill instructors would be like watching us and yelling at us while we're eating.
Really?
So, and you have to eat with like one hand, so you're kind of just like shoveling in your face. People would like choke all the time.
What is that? Every meal as well? You would have to like literally smash that food down.
Yeah, we don't really eat with the drill instructors though.
Some people dispute that this even happened this way, but as the story goes, the way the Marines got started was when 2 captains, Robert Mullen and Samuel Nicholas, invited a bunch of decent men for a beer at a place called the Tun Tavern. The National Museum of Marine Corps in Virginia has a restaurant called the Tun Tavern. 37,
That's cool.
A few good men. You've heard that phrase, and it comes from an ad asking for Marines to sign up to sail. The ad goes like this: the Continental ship Providence, now lying at Boston, is bound on a short cruise immediately. A few good men are wanted to make up her complement. That was way back in 1779.
That's some history.
Tough dogs. While the British Bulldog has been used to symbolize the stubbornness and hard temperament of Winston Churchill, as well as being painted in the past on tough guys' arms, the Marines actually use it as its mascot.
No way.
It's kind of funny though, for all those tough guys and Marines, is that this breed suffers lots of health problems and usually dies at a very young age.
I've got massive respect for that.
No, you think it's awesome, but like you'll go to a unit and they'll have like, it's usually like a battalion dog or like a regimental dog. And it has a rank, like they'll actually give them rank.
Get out of here.
Which is just like, it's so awkward because you'll have this corporal bulldog that just walks around shitting all over the place.
This corporal bulldog.
It's bizarre, dude.
Number 35, change the mascot. Shih Tzus and Chihuahuas have one of the longest life expectancies. Number 34, Toy Hero.
What?
Not many people know that Toys for Tots was started by the Marine Reserves. They have collected over 500 million toys since they started in 1947.
This is
the
cool.
idea came from Major Bill Hendricks, who took inspiration from seeing his
wife
donate toys.
It's like a nationwide donation.
It's not all about being tough
cool.
and killing people. Number 33, Super Rabbit. Bugs Bunny was made honorary Marine Master Sergeant for his performance in the cartoon Super Rabbit. Very few people receive this award, which is given to individuals in the civilian community who have made extraordinary contributions to the Marine Corps. Chuck Norris gained that honor too, as did comedian Bob Hope. Number 32,
man, that's awesome.
Jarhead. The term Jarhead was given to Marines during World War II. Some say it was because of their high and tight haircut, but others say it was more about how the neck of their uniforms was high, and so it made their heads look like jars. Most people on forums discussing this say it was the hair, not the clothes. Number 31,
that's awesome, man.
Leatherneck. Another name for a Marine is Leatherneck. This originated in the 19th century when a Marine's uniform consisted of a very hard and high leather neck. Why? So a bayonet couldn't penetrate a Marine's neck. Number 30.
So, you guys kind of have the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
It literally derives from the same thing. Yeah, and I'd imagine like that's both of our stories derive from that, just basically because what we used to have to do, we were like ship's security basically, weren't we? Stopping at like revolting and stuff like that, and going into mutiny. So obviously we called bootnecks in the Royal Marines. Little piece of leather off our boots, put it under our collar when we sleep at night, so you didn't get your throat slit. It's probably it probably came from the same thing, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Devils. The Germans gave the name of Teufelhunden to the US Marines in the First World War. The Marines were sent to save Paris from invading Germans and did a tremendous job.
Wow.
That German phrase above translates to devil dogs. Number 29, the Big Man. The first ever officer of the Marines, then called the Continental Marines, was called Major Samuel Nicholas. He was the guy that was responsible for that Ton Tavern event, but it's thought he went around lots of taverns looking for able men to fight. He was a Freemason of a Masonic lodge and a good recruiter. He fought in many battles and died only after he retired from the Marines when yellow fever got him in 1790. His birthday, November 10th, is now the Marine Corps birthday. Number 28,
I didn't know
honor
that.
and ethics. Cool. If you read the manual for becoming a Marine, a big part of the training is about teaching men to be honorable soldiers. While their job is to defend and kill, they also learn how to do that ethically. This is why they have the motto Semper Fidelis, which is Latin for always faithful. Faithful not only to the Marines, but to the country and to the values they have been taught. Number 27, PTSD. That's not always easy when you have PTSD. It's said around 8% of Americans will get PTSD at some point in their lives, but as for people in the military, that goes up to 11 to 30%. Number 26, not enough help. One ex-Marine writes, in the military, young people are indoctrinated into a warrior culture. When they're sent to boot camp and then to war, they are required to do extreme things in order to survive. Some don't cope well. The U.S. National Institute of Health writes that veterans don't get enough help, and many turn to drink, drugs, and worse.
So what's your take on that then? Because I've got like many different views on this, and it changes from country to country, service to service. Like the U.S. Marines are, battle-hardened individuals doing an extremely hard job in some of the most hostile environments on the planet. So, what would you do to help that? I mean, it's like the hidden disease, isn't it? PTSD. You can't really. It's not a physical thing.
There's definitely a lot of stress. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stress, but it gets exasperated with like drinking problems and whatnot, and also just like the culture in the Marine Corps. But I think they're doing a pretty good job now of like when you go to get mental health checks and whatnot, it's not going to be as reported as much. So there's not going to be as much of a stigma.
A stigma, that's the main thing.
Writes, our findings suggest that mental health disparities are often a leading factor to the high suicide rates among veterans who experience depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. And you've all seen the movies. Perhaps that phrase, Semper Fidelis, should work both ways, not just when the government wants men to fight, but when it has to take responsibility for the consequences of war. Number 25, Marines have it tough. Suicides among all veterans is about double that of American civilians. In fact, in 2016, a Pentagon report said, suicide kills more troops than Islamic State. This might be all the military, but let's remember the Marines are often in the mix and have one of the hardest jobs. One report, although from 2010, said more Marines kill themselves than any other branch of the military. Not by much though. The Army was second, and the Navy was much lower than both. Number 24.
That's upsetting,
the Marines have their own hymn. This is the first verse. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land,
Every Marine
and sea.
knows that one.
First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean,
There's
we are
like
proud
3
to claim the
stanzas,
title of United States Marine.
Oh man, I
Number
like that.
23.
Longer.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
The halls of Montezuma refers to the Battle of Chapultepec in 1847. The Marines took Chapultepec Castle in Mexico City, and then took the city in the Mexican-American War. The second line refers to the Barbary War in the early 1800s, when the United States and Sweden went up against some North African states. You can actually learn a lot just from analyzing the full song. There are pirates involved, and who doesn't like reading about pirates?
That's quite a good combination there. U.S. Marines and Swedish soldiers as well. I wonder if it was Swedish
I've never
Marines.
heard about that.
Yeah, I've never heard
I don't
about
know,
that
honestly.
as well.
I've heard the Battle of Chapultepec, but I've never heard I know Tripoli, but I've never heard us fighting with the Swedes. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I'd like to know more about that.
Number 22, Normandy Invasion. One of the things some people find strange is that it was the American army who made up most of the Normandy invasion and not the Marines. Storming the land from the sea, isn't that what the Marines are trained to do? The reason was simply about numbers. The army had 89 divisions in the war, and the Marines had just 6. The Marines were scattered around the world, especially the Pacific, and the army had enough troops for the invasion. Number 21, Marines in Other Worlds. It's often Marines that are depicted fighting on other planets. They ended up in the film Aliens, in the movie Avatar as the Jarhead clan, and also in the video game
That is kind of weird.
Number 20,
I guess it's like
How to Save Your
warfare.
Friends. A Marine called Jason Lee Dunham was posthumously given the Medal of Honor for an act of valor. The Marine serving in Iraq with the 3rd Battalion 7th Marines threw himself on a grenade and tried to cover it with his helmet. It exploded and he was very seriously hurt. His comrades, however, were not seriously hurt. Gunham was evacuated, but his injuries were grave and his life support was turned off in 2004. During the posthumous presentation of the Medal of Honor, the first few lines read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty."
So this is something that I've heard quite a lot of, and it's quite. Tell me if I'm wrong. It seems to be quite unique in the Marines, both Royal Marines and US Marines. I don't know what makes a guy jump on a grenade, but that the Marines were doing that quite a lot in the protection of their comrades. I've heard stories similar in the Royal Marines as well. So it's like it's a characteristic of bravery and pure unselfishness, which I think's amazing in the Marines throughout the world, you know?
Yeah, another Marine, Kyle Carpenter, actually did the same thing. I think he put his like helmet over it and then he absorbed it. He actually ended up living, which is awesome.
Yeah, I know. He's amazing.
Jason Dunham, actually, he was in my CQB team before he actually went and deployed, which is really cool. Man. We actually named the barracks after him, the Dunham barracks.
That's nice. So you know this guy.
Yeah.
Number 19, getting there fast. In 2002, the U.S. Air Force and the Marines began a project called Small Unit Space Transport and Insertion, the acronym being SUSTAIN. The object was to be able to deploy Marines anywhere on the planet within just 2 hours or less. Suborbital spacecraft would be used to make this happen. We've batted ideas back and forth, said one of the main people involved regarding the challenge. We can't find how the program has progressed recently. Number 18, Bambi was a Marine. The kid that did the voice for the cute deer Bambi, an animated movie made back in 1942, became a Marine. His name is Donald Donnie Roan Dunnigan. He's 83 today, but in his younger days, post-Bambi, he served in the Marines and was awarded a Bronze Star and 3 Purple Hearts.
Damn.
That's a tough little
Bambi's
deer.
Hard as
Number
nails.
17, No Girl Left Behind. In the book Goodnight Saigon by Charles Henderson, it's written that during the evacuation of Saigon by American troops in 1975, one Marine called Gregory Hargis drove a truck full of prostitutes to an airstrip and put them on a C-141. He said they were his friends and signed a responsibility form for them. This is some of the dialogue in the book. Where do we go? They chimed together. You go stateside, Hargis called back. Number 16, Reckless. The Marines had a horse they named Reckless, but we are not sure how conscious the horse was of its recklessness. During the Korean War, the war horse carried ammunition, wounded soldiers, and more. She made many, many missions and was injured for her efforts. She was awarded 2 Purple Hearts and became a staff sergeant.
That
Number
doesn't
15,
sound real. Is that the right terminology? And was injured for his efforts? It's like that almost sounds as if you've done well there. Now we're going to hurt you. you know, unless I've...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Hey, 2 Purple Hearts.
Yeah.
2 Purple Hearts, pretty impressive.
Hard times. The New York Times reported in 2009 that when times are tough economically in the USA and the Marines have enough recruits, they would change their ads. Rather than tempt folks to join, they would make Marine life look really hard. When numbers fell, expect to see more enticing ads. Number 14,
okay.
Peyote.
Makes
Again,
sense.
from the New York Times, there's a report in 1997 that tells us Native Americans were allowed to take peyote, containing the psychedelic drug mescaline, in the Marines in spite of anti-drug policies. It was decided they could on the grounds of their religion, but not on the battlefield, of course. Number 13, feed your head. The Marines are given a reading list. Marines must read history, some biographies, and lots about war. They must also read the US Constitution. It states on the Library of the Marine Corps website, I want Marines to read beyond the list too, especially paying attention to current events, science, and technology, and what our potential adversaries are up to around the world.
Right, isn't that like a in training specific thing? Because it was similar in the Royal Marines where, you know, you're gonna do your core history and stuff, you need to know about current affairs and everything, but it's not really a massive requirement when you've completed the course, you know? Is that the same?
So honestly, no. So it's called the Commandant's Reading List, and it's just like recommended reading. So if you read these books on the Commandant's Reading List and like prepare an essay, you get promotion points. So
Seriously?
It's kind of like, yeah, it's like professional development.
That's
kind of
pretty
stuff.
cool.
It's not mandatory.
Right. So it's up to you if you want to help with your promotion and stuff. That's cool.
Right.
Number 12, the drill. A Marine was saved by ad hoc brain surgery, partly using a Black & Decker drill. The surgeon was CNN chief medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. In 2007, the doctor wrote in a CNN article, I remember the day
familiar.
Well. It was in April of 2003. A 23-year-old Marine, Jesus Vidana, suddenly fell to the ground, his helmet and head bloodied by a sniper's bullet. Gupta writes that the Marine survived and did well, saying he wouldn't be telling you the story if it hadn't gone that way. Number 11, older than the actual country. The U.S. Marine Corps is actually older than the USA itself.
Really?
Which you should know if you know your history.
Yeah.
It was formed one day before the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Number 10, talking down the enemy. At the battles for Saipan and Tinian Islands in 1944 during World War II, a U.S. Marine called Guy Louis Gabaldon is said to have convinced 1,300 Japanese soldiers to surrender. How did he do this? After shining shoes on Skid Row and joining a gang, he went to live with a Japanese family when he was 12. He learned the language and their customs. For his efforts, he became known as the Pied Piper of Saipan. Number 9, raising the flag. One of the soldiers from that famous moment in history when soldiers raised the American flag on Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II was actually colorblind. It said he got in the Marines by memorizing what another man had said in the test. He was killed in action a week after that flag was raised. Number 8, look smart. Stars and Stripes writes that when Marines are in uniform, they should always be well groomed. But another thing they are told not to do is put their hands in their pockets. If you are in the field and it is cold and you don't have gloves, common sense says put your hands in your pocket. But you better not do it in garrison, said Mary Boyd of the Marine Corps Uniform Board. But what if you have an itch in a certain spot? Stars and Stripes didn't ask that question. Number 7, and if it rains. Male Marines are not allowed to carry umbrellas. This was called a silly rule by some American media after conservatives were apparently outraged at a photo of a Marine holding an umbrella over President Barack Obama. By the way, female Marines can hold umbrellas. Number 6, drinking snake.
So you can't own an umbrella or hold an umbrella, did it say?
You can't hold it in uniform, which is why, like, even now in the army, when it's raining, I just never have an umbrella.
So it's just an ism. We was in the jungle in Gabon, and I'm not going to mention the name, but one of the corporals, it was smashing it down with rain, and he was sat there with an umbrella, massive umbrella, and we were all like laughing at first, saying, "What on earth are you doing?" But about 20 minutes later, everyone was huddled under it, thinking, I'm staying out of this rain, man. That's a good idea.
Dude, common sense, you know?
Yeah.
Every year, American Marines visit Thailand and do all kinds of jungle exercises. It's known as Cobra Gold and is a big deal in the Thai media. It culminates with U.S. Marines cutting off a cobra's head and drinking its blood. Number 5, the hidden pin. Some Marines have a pin with their next rank they could be promoted to somewhere on their uniform, but they often keep that pin covered. Number 4, cake time. During the Marine Corps birthday, every year, there is a cake. The first piece is given to the guest of honor, the second to the oldest Marine at the party, and the third to the youngest Marine. We guess it's a free-for-all. Number 3, the band. The Marines have had a band since 1798, which has been performing for American presidents at their inauguration since Thomas Jefferson in 1801. It's called the President's Own. It's usually pretty formal music, although Theodore Roosevelt's daughter Alice asked the band to perform a Scott Joplin ragtime number. Number 2, loss of life. While Marines died in small numbers in the 18th and 19th centuries, it wasn't until World War I's Battle of Belleau Wood that huge numbers died in one battle.
Brutal.
It said around 5,000 Marines died. What? And finally, number 1, carrying a lot of money around. Star-Spangled Flags wrote in 2017 that these days, each Marine carries about $14,000 worth of gear and equipment, and that's not even including night vision goggles. The Huffington Post writes that top-of-the-range goggles can cost as much as $20,000. They can be much cheaper, but we guess the Marines have the good stuff. It's also said that in the early 2000s, Marines would carry just $2,500
not $20,000.
So, are there any other shocking facts about U.S. Marines that you can add to this list? Let us know.
Yeah, so, I mean, what do you think about that last one there about the night vision? Because I know that the military do pay more for things in general than they actually should be worth. I don't know if it's the same in the US.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the equipment and on the contract, but generally speaking, the Army has better night vision. The Marine Corps has like really nice optics and weapon systems, but the Army has like integrated thermal and night vision capabilities. Like, if you ever seen, like, there's, like, a video online where they have, like, the new ENVGs, and it's got, like, this cool line. It looks like Halo 3 ODST.
Wow.
It's really cool stuff.
That's awesome, man. I enjoyed that video.
Yeah, I don't know. It was good. Some of the stuff was a little bit weird, like that one they were talking about with the pin, but overall, it's pretty accurate. I don't really have a whole lot to debunk about it. Some of them were freaking weird though, like with the Chihuahuas.
Yeah, Chihuahuas. It's good to see like how many similarities there is though, like and things that aren't even similar. We'll do our own little weird things. So you've got the dog there as a mascot at 40 Commando. It was like it wasn't a legitimate mascot, but there was this deer that used to live on camp. And it would be seen on photos on parade and everything, and no one could touch that deer. But it's weird, man.
That's funny.
Yeah.
At Fort Polk, there's like a bunch of stray horses, so the stray horses would just walk all over in between ceremonies and stuff.
Just do what the hell they want.
So I don't really know. I don't have anything shocking off the top of my head that would attribute to the entire Marine Corps. But yeah, I mean, it was a good video overall. There wasn't anything that was too bad or incorrect about it, so pretty solid one, I would say. If you guys have anything off the top of your head that you could think about, if you're in the Marine Corps, if you heard some stories from the Marine Corps that seem shocking, you can throw it down below. But I think this video did a pretty good job about it. If
there's any other facts that you think may interest us, if you've served in the Marines, or even if you haven't served in the Marines but you've heard like hearsay facts about them, drop a comment below so we can kind of debunk it, or we can comment on if it's legit or not, guys. But if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe to both of our channels. Links will be in the description for both of our channels, guys. So wherever you're watching this video from, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.